Remember that time that I said you'd probably get a good 1 to 2% with your Phoenix Squad in Phase 2? Yeah, I kind of underestimated their damage a little bit. Let's talk about this a bit. So originally when I had done that guide and roadmap for guilds to start working on teams for these different phases, I had said to work on Phoenix Squad and maybe expect 1 to 2% with them. Don't expect too much. But as it turns out, they can perform a whole lot better than we originally thought. And with this run comes courtesy of MedTech. He has a full Gear 12 and full Zeta Phoenix Squadron, and he ends up doing close to 7%, which is good for about 3.5 million damage on this run with his Phoenix Squadron in Phase 2. So there is a lot of damage potential here with this team. So let's go over what he's running on the team with mods, and actually you're going to be surprised, the mods on this team are really not that bad. We'll talk about how to mod them, what you want to go for on there, and then we'll just talk about the overall strategy as well. First up, we have Hera, the leader of the Phoenix Squadron, and for this fight, MedTech has her with a speed and defense set. You're probably wondering about the defense, and this is because you really want to boost up the survivability of your Phoenix Squadron, because towards the end of the fight, Sion's going to be starting to hit for 30 to 40,000 on critical hits with his attacks, so you want to make sure you can help boost up their survivability. So go for protection on the triangle, go for health or protection on the cross, same with the circle. You want to boost up their survivability. Don't really need to focus on damage with Hera because you're not going to be getting a lot of damage from her. She's going to be doing mostly assists and buffing up the team. So focus on her survivability first. 226 speed for her, really not that bad overall. So pretty manageable mods here for her. For Sabine, he has offense and crit chance. You don't need to have the offense. He has that because he has high speed secondaries on those offensive mods. If you have crit damage mods that have really high speed secondaries, that would be better overall because she has such a high crit chance anyways. So get the crit chance, crit damage on her. Get a crit damage triangle on her, but then work on protection and health for her cross and her circle. You want to make sure that, again, she's also staying alive, and getting that survivability boosted up with the health and protection is going to be really nice here. You has the Zeta on Demolish, which is one of the required Zetas for Phoenix Squadron anyways. 240 speed for Sabine, because that means that she's going to be able to move more often and use that Darksaber strike. So make sure that she has the fastest speed out of everyone on your Phoenix Squad, and then start working on boosting up her damage with the triangle and boosting up her survivability with the cross and the circle mods. Next up, we have Ezra, and crit chance and crit damage for him. 222 speed, again, not that bad, but getting some health on his circle. But you notice we're really going for a lot more offensive build with him. He is going to get a lot of foresight from Kanan as this fight goes on, so you don't have to worry about boosting his health and protection so much. Getting offense on that cross really going to help with his damage, same with the crit damage triangle, but make sure that you start working on boosting up his damage, so get some nice offense secondaries on him as well, getting some extra crit chance on some of the secondaries, but also working on that speed too. You want him going fast, and you want him critting very often and critting for larger numbers, so focus on those speed and offense and crit chance secondaries for him, and of course making sure you have the Zeta on his Flourish. Next up, we have Kanan Jarrus, and he is running health and speed mod sets on him. About 200 speed for Kanan, so making sure he can go at a pretty decent speed is going to be nice here, and then his Zeta is going to allow him to spread out foresight and gain that bonus turn meter. So you don't need him running too fast because he's going to gain a lot of bonus turn meter when that foresight expires, but making sure you boost up his protection and his health is going to be key here because he is your tank for Phoenix Squadron. He is going to be taking the most damage from Darth Sion, so bonus protection on the circle and the cross, bonus protection on or health on the triangle mod is also something else you want to work on. So focus on getting him up to a decent speed, about 200 would be fine, and then start boosting up his health and protection. And then finally we have Zeb, and crit damage and potency. You don't really need the potency too much because his debuffs aren't going to stack that often, but he could get some days on the ads, and that could be helpful, especially with Sith Assassin or Sith Marauders. That helps them, it prevents them from gaining that bonus turn meter. So the days could be useful there, but really you want to have some decent speed on him. 180 speed, really not that bad, and then kind of focus on his offense and boosting up that damage, because his staggering sweep Zeta is going to allow him to do a lot of damage to Darth Sion as the fight goes on. You guys will see he can hit for 70,000 with it under the right circumstances. So getting that bonus crit damage, bonus offense on the cross, and then some bonus health and protection. He's already a pretty tanky character as it is, so he doesn't need all those bonus health and protection mods like you would need for someone like Sabine or Hera. So just getting some extra damage through his mods is going to be very nice to have. So when it comes to the overall strategy, the first thing that you need to do is always use the Darksaber Strike on Darth Sion. You need to start getting that armor shredded as quickly as possible. And you know, it does reduce the target's armor by 25% against raid bosses. However, this is not an additive property, so 4 stacks of armor shred will not give you 100% armored penetration on the target. It's actually not going to be that simple, so you have to keep doing it to get closer and closer to 100% armor reduction on Darth Sion. So always spam the Darksaber Strike when it's up, making sure that you are constantly getting it on Darth Sion, because you'll notice as the fight goes on, the more armor shred he gets, the more damage he's going to start taking from the entire squadron, and it gets to the point where even Kanan Jarrus is heading for 50,000 on counters against Darth Sion. So getting armor shred in is really going to help boost the damage. Another thing here to note is that as the fight goes on, you're going to notice he's not cleansing the cycles of pain and suffering from his team all that often. He'll cleanse it when Kanan gets up to a stack of cycle of suffering, but that's pretty much it. I think he cleanses 1 or 2 other times during this fight, but you want to make sure you keep cycles of suffering on at least Sabine and Ezra. They're going to be your main damage dealers. You need to make sure that they get those massive damage boosts. And you know, he has full gear 12 on everybody here, so he's got a lot of max health and protection, but for someone who has lower gear amounts than he has on this team, you don't have the full gear 12 like he does, it'd be probably best to start cleansing some of the other stacks on people, because also keep in mind, cycles of pain and suffering also boost the damage of Darth Sion in the process. So making sure that you get the stacks cleansed off of Kanan, kind of cleanse them on the other characters as needed. If you needed to use ability to prevent Sion from countering and killing one of your characters, that'd be a great thing to do as well. A couple other things to note is when you're calling in the assists, with Ezra, you usually want to go for Hera because she's a support character, and both Ezra and Hera will get 40% turn meter in the process of that assist. So that's going to help both those characters go more often. It means Ezra's going to use his Flourish more often, and as we all know, Flourish does a lot of damage against targets, and that means Hera can then call in support with her abilities more often, and also maybe get out that emergency buff that's going to help prevent Kanan from dying and heal him back up. And with Hera, you usually want to have her call in something like Kanan, because the Zeta on her assist will reduce the Phoenix ally cooldown by 1. So having her call in Kanan means that he is going to be able to use total defense more often, which means he can spread out that foresight more and also start cleansing and kind of help boost his turn meter too. Now your usual target for that foresight is going to be Ezra, because Ezra moves very often and very fast. That foresight's going to expire pretty quickly, and that means 50% turn meter for Kanan when that foresight expires. So it's all kind of helping boost the speed for Kanan, making sure that he gets out that foresight more often. Usually you do call out Ezra, you do have the foresight on Ezra, but also look at getting that foresight on other targets. You'll see during this fight, Zeb also drops dangerously low on health. At that point, he kind of boosts the survivability with foresight and gets some extra protection. So also use Ezra to call in Kanan or Zeb to get that bonus protection on them and Ezra, because they are both tank characters. So you don't have a set character you're going to call in. You kind of want to go with the flow of the battle, and as your characters start taking damage or losing health and protection, adjust your tactics accordingly. Maybe you'll need to cleanse more cycles of pain and suffering. Maybe you need to start calling other characters to get those protection boosts. Maybe you need to get foresight on someone else as well. So you do just want to kind of watch how the fight's going and kind of adjust for yourself and figure out whether or not it's something that you're going to need to adjust with the protection and everything else. So it's kind of up to the player, and you do have to pay very close attention, because outside of the buff from Hera with the revive ability that can't be dispelled, you really don't have any other way to bring back these characters. So if you do have lower gear levels, you may need to cleanse those cycles of pain and suffering more often, and you will probably need to do a couple of runs just to figure out the rhythm for yourself so that you guys can figure out a way to do these fights. And that's part of it too. There is some RNG that's going to be involved here. You will have times where Darth Sion's going to hit the same character 3 or 4 times in a row. They're going to die. And that's going to happen. That's just something you have to deal with, and you'll have to restart your fight. But that's part of the Sith raid, where we constantly have to restart fights, get that right RNG, and yeah, it kind of kills the fun, but it is a part of the raid. You will have days that can be afflicted from the ability, from the Saber Throw, from Sith Marauder. That's something that you'll probably need to cleanse. So use a character that can cleanse that from that character, because that daze means you won't gain the bonus turn meter, that character can't counter, and counters are a pretty significant portion of damage from your team as well, as you get those AoE attacks from Darth Sion, which is now thankfully fixed so it doesn't remove all your turn meter. That means that he uses that AoE, and potentially you could have everybody on your team counter at once, and you can see when that happens, it's a lot of damage on Darth Sion. So overall, focus on the Zetas for Sabine and Kanan first. Those are your required Zetas. But then after that, focus on getting the Zeta for Hera, then Zeb, and then get the Zeta on Ezra's Flourish. One other thing to note is that Sion can taunt from time to time, and at this point you will need to use the Flourish from Ezra to cleanse it, especially if there are other characters on the field at that time. So use that Flourish to dispel the taunt. It's not fun, it's not something that you guys like to do because it means that you don't get the bonus cooldown reduction, but it is necessary because if you don't get rid of those adds, it could really affect your run overall. So I'm going to let the rest of this fight play out so you guys can see for yourselves everything going on. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask down below. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Also, there is a link to the Phoenix Squadron Discord server down below. There's a lot of people there who are really good at the Phoenix Squadron. I recommend you go check it out. So check out that Discord link down below. But that is it for me, guys. Thanks to everyone for watching. To all my Minions, I will talk to you guys later.